Today, on What's Your Skincare Routine with LeAura Luciano, our guest is a true trailblazer in skin health and wellness. Dr. Ben Johnson, MD, the founder, formulator, and visionary behind Osmosis Beauty. Dr. Ben began his career in aesthetic medicine over 2 decades ago, opening one of the first Medi-Spa chains in the United States, with a deep conviction that the skin and body hold an innate ability to heal if given the right tools and free from toxins. He launched Osmosis Beauty. His revolutionary philosophy rejects harsh exfoliation in favor of gentle, science-driven strategies that support dermal remodeling, barrier and DNA repair, and detoxification. Dr. Ben's innovative research earned him multiple patents and industry recognition, including the 2023 Esthetician's Choice Awards and being named a favorite natural line in the 2024 American Spa Professionals' Choice Awards. Whether you're a skincare pro, wellness seeker, or curious about holistic beauty, you're in for a treat. He'll be sharing insights on everything from liposomal ingredient delivery and skin mapping to detox protocols, and why conventional treatments like fillers and lasers might be doing more harm than good. Let's get started and explore the holistic science of skin health with Dr. Ben Johnson. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Ben. I'm so excited to have you on today and to chat with you. Thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me today.
I wanted our audience to learn more about you and your background and take a little bit of a dive into products, but also your perspective on beauty. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I'm a Western medicine trained medical doctor, graduated from Creighton University School of Medicine, and was going to go down a path in sports medicine. Ended up starting a chain of laser clinics, one of the first sort of Medi-Spa chains in the country way back in 1997. So I've been in this industry for like 28 years. And while I was doing my laser clinics, I thought, why should I buy someone else's skincare? Why don't I start my own company? And I started a company called Cosmetics, and then sold my interest in that after a few years and went back to the drawing board because I noticed that, the pros and cons of skincare is we all love it. But at the same time, I think we all come up a bit disappointed with our results. And so, there's a lot more hype than there is truth in the skincare world out there. Sometimes I say it's analogous to a used car lot. Everyone's got a story, but what is really happening in the skin? So I evaluated what it took to get permanent changes in the skin. So your skin actually gets younger every month, every year, and there's a reversal of aging. And so we could talk about some of those strategies if that comes up. But equally as important to me was I was trying to help heal a lot of skin conditions. And so I just sort of naturally morphed into a holistic MD because I just kept becoming disenchanted with antibiotics and steroids and Accutane and all these toxic drugs that the mainstream physicians are recommending and prescribing. And what I learned was fascinating. I just kept my mind always open. And I learned an entirely new understanding of what actually causes most of the skin and health conditions that exist out there today. So then I started to formulate the internal strategy, the wellness strategy, in order to be able to treat all of these different conditions. And that's where, we just have a very unique set of products. There's nothing like us in the world. We have several patents and patents pending. And I'm super proud of where we come today. And I really am excited to share this with people today because we help so many people. And in fact, I spend most of my day answering emails from individuals around the world that have heard about me through my podcast or elsewhere. And where I share my email, I'm like, look, if you have a problem you need help with, send me an email. I probably have a solution for it. And so I built out this sort of awareness through that. And just something that brings me a lot of reward every day for the way this has all turned out.
To that point, and something you mentioned earlier, you said if it comes up, I definitely want to bring it up because you really can see that through the product information. And I've definitely listened to some of your podcasts too. You talk about science and treatment protocols that are helping to really transform the face of skincare, if you will, right? Literally and figuratively. And what would you say has been your most groundbreaking discovery so far?
Oh, well, it just depends on which side of the fence we want to look at. So I'll go two strategies. One is topically, everyone needs to know, I believe the skin is divinely designed and the body is just amazing. And it's so intricate. We have roughly somewhere between 60 and 100 trillion cells. Imagine all these cells are communicating with each other and they work together. And as soon as a bite of food touches your mouth, all kinds of enzymes and processes are engaged. So your body starts to figure out which enzymes it needs to break apart, which nutrients in order to support some part of your body. And whichever part of your body is most in need, your body will favor, except when it comes to life and death. So there are certain things where the body will say, look, I don't care if you're going to die. If I ignore this, I'm going to go ahead and try to fix that problem. So one of the amazing designs is the skin itself, which keeps products out. Roughly 95% of the ingredients we put on our face never get past significant level of that top layer of our skin, our stratum corneum. And so when you ask the skin to make more collagen, you need to get to the dermis. And so part of the strategy is delivery systems that actually make it into the skin. So I'm one of the few companies in the world where we run a bulk of our serums through this machine that builds pharmaceutical grade liposomes, these delivery little vesicles that carry the active ingredients deeper into the skin so that they can actually reach where collagen is made in the dermis. And to me, that's we have several breakthrough ingredients that no one else is using, but that one I don't see very often. I see the occasional liposome ingredient, like maybe a liposomal vitamin A someone might put into their formula, but to actually liposome deliver all the active ingredients into the skin, I just don't see. And to me, that was a big hurdle. It was a very expensive hurdle, but a big hurdle to getting real results. And then the other thing I would say from an internal perspective that I'm most proud of is that I recognized over time, because I was doing all these cases. So part of what I have is my direct relationship with the consumer where I'll answer their email and give them my best advice. And then the other one is I have this forum of professionals. So estheticians, doctors, naturopaths, and even chiropractors and homeopaths and nurses are in there. And so this forum, they submit cases to me. And I've been doing this now for well over 10 years, actually closer to 15 years. And so through all those thousands of cases, I started to see a pattern in how the skin presents. And so one sort of broad example of the amazing discovery I made is that your skin maps out to give you very clear messaging that there's something wrong within the body. And so we have this thing called skin mapping, which is a little bit similar to, I know people are familiar with Chinese face mapping, but really that doesn't apply because not every organ shows on your skin. So what I do is I show skin mapping based on where acne and rosacea and pigmentation show up on your face and your body. And it's very precise. So when I say, for example, if you have acne on your forehead, that comes from a candida, which is a yeast that's naturally in your microbiome, but most of America has overgrown candida. So that's from candida in your large intestine. And this sort of discovery allows my professionals and even consumers to go, oh, wait, I can see exactly that going on here or there. I know what my problem is, and then they can find that targeted solution.
I wanted to actually ask you something that's a little bit trending. You're seeing a lot of stuff, especially on social media, and we don't have to talk about anybody specific, but it seems like the trend, especially from skincare to treatments and injectables. It seems like right now a lot of celebrities are dissolving fillers. They're dissolving the fillers and maybe opting for a more natural look. What are your recommendations for filler and Botox alternatives?
Yeah, well, and first let me just say for the entirety of my professional career, since I left laser clinics where I actually did do Botox and collagen injection back when collagen was still the injectable, I realized through the research, and you're seeing some of it come out in social now, that Botox goes to your brainstem. And I actually think if you're doing Botox repeatedly over time, you're going to have difficulty swallowing. I see a lot of my clients and patients who are now having trouble swallowing. Not all of it may be related to Botox, but if you're someone who has been doing Botox for 10 years, that's a real risk. The other thing that happens, of course, with Botox is the face sags because you lose your muscle and the muscle holds the face up and the muscle also holds the face out. So you have a gravity effect that happens. So I've been anti-Botox forever. It's not always, doesn't win over the clients. When I sell a med spa on my skincare, they don't always love that my podcast, I'm hating on Botox. Filler, I'm not as passionate against in the sense that it's not creating long-term harm for the most part. But what we all have heard recently, and if you haven't heard, this has been proven by MRIs and assessments of the skin. When you get a filler injection, most of it doesn't dissolve. It actually moves, right? And so if people are getting filler in their lips, for example, a huge problem that's happening is the filler migrates to the upper lip. And now they have this lump right below their nose and it looks odd. And so they're getting it dissolved. But the other problem is filler migrates from wherever you put it. And so even though some of it might degrade, you're going to have all these balls of filler kind of floating in your skin for potentially the rest of your life because in contrast to what you've been taught by these doctors who are literally, a lot of doctors are promoters for the pharmaceutical industry. And so they're like, hey, I make money on this. I'm going to promote it. And they sometimes close their eyes. Like, I'm anti-laser. I could go off on lasers too and tell you why traumatizing the skin causes long-term harm. No rejuvenation happens. But what ends up happening with filler is people are going in to dissolve it because it looks unnatural. So I started to look into what is the actual reason why people develop these lines here called the marionette lines or the mouth lines that they get or the, between the brow lines. And I know we all like to say, oh, it's those darn muscles contracting, but they're contracting from birth. And you don't see those lines until you get to a specific age. And so what's actually happening is we all have within our face two different types of layers of fat. We have what's called the subcutaneous fat, and that fat is right below the skin, and that's the fat that gets bigger as we gain caloric weight. So if we eat pizza all day long every day, that subcutaneous fat gets bigger, and you see our face gets whiter and all of that. But we have a secondary type of fat called the structural fat pads. These are pockets almost like sacs because they're isolated under your muscle, and they are basically, as I would see it, God's design in putting these little packets to hold your face up in a certain way so you don't have the Skeletor look from birth. Muscles don't hold your face up. The volume of your face is primarily held up by what are called structural fat pads. And so I encourage people to go Google that. They'll see examples of it. And what happens is with alcohol, stress, smoking, and starvation, the body starts to steal from these fat pads. They're not just in the face, they're the fat pads in the arms, they're the fat pads in the buttocks and in the breast. And so like women who deliver a baby, they breastfeed, and the next thing they know, they're like a size smaller. Well, that's because the breast milk stole from the fat pads in order to make the milk. And then on the buttocks, a lot of women notice that where their buttocks used to be held up firm and out, it actually starts to flatten and drop. That's because these fat pads have disappeared. So I began to explore what is different about those fats than the subcutaneous fat that we hate. Like cellulite is subcutaneous fat. I'm talking about the fat that lifts and firms. The answer is there's some really exotic fatty acids that are what go into these fat pads. So I developed that replenishes those fat pads. It's patent pending, a product called Recovery. And if you take a tablespoon in the morning, a tablespoon at night for 3 to 4 months, it restores the volume by about 80% of all of these fat pads, and it dramatically changed appearance. So 80% of a wrinkle, I know everyone thinks a wrinkle is caused by collagen, 80% of a wrinkle is actually caused by your volume loss from these fat pads.
So speaking to your product, what would be the protocol? You said like 2 tablespoons daily for a period of 3 months, 4 months?
Okay, so almost everyone doesn't need maintenance, although we recommend it because the product we're using is also amazing for the microbiome. It's also got all the omegas, including omega-7, which is amazing for the skin. So it's a superfood on its own, and it just happens to also restore the fat pads. So we recommend people stay on it. The only women where I've found they have to stay on a tablespoon a day are women who are really low body fat. Maybe they're marathon runners, maybe they're models. And so they're running around all day and their body is in starvation mode and it's stealing from the fat pads every day. So you got to keep taking it in order to maintain it if you're in that mode. I give people strategies on how to work around that. Eat more carbohydrates so your body has fuel that's not fat. It's actually semi-permanent in that sense. It takes about 20 years for us to lose our fat pads, but once you restore them, they last for a long time.
All right, sign me up. I'm definitely interested in that for
I'm
sure.
telling you, it is a fan favorite.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, based on what you're saying, it's really interesting. So that is oral. That's a liquid, you said? Is that correct?
Yeah, that oil. Say, a lot of people are like, well, wait, so if I take oil every day, am I not getting fat from it? You actually, the only weight you gain is in these structural fat pads that you had when you were young. So none of it makes you actually like gain a belt size or, a pant size. It doesn't add to your stomach or any of that stuff. What it's simply doing is adding to the places where you lost volume. So for example, women who have like a wiggly underarm, it's a lot of it has to do with the fat pad that's in their bicep. And so we'll help firm that up. The neck, a lot of women get lines that kind of age them. There's a fat pad in the neck that we repopulate. So there's a lot of interesting areas where it goes. But yeah, it's an oil, a tablespoon of oil twice a day, basically.
Your inside out approach, you're not just treating the skin, because you think of skincare brands, you think of, wellness and skincare, and you think of the topical products and then all the in-office treatments, but you're also talking about things that you can take that are you're ingesting this and you're benefiting the skin. I know that's very
Absolutely.
broad.
It is broad. One of the things that I found so frustrating, and I'm sure many of your viewers and listeners find frustrating, is they might get acne or they might get something happening with their skin. And, nobody, their esthetician, their doctor, no one can say exactly where it comes from. Maybe they tell them, oh, it might be from a mite. It might be from a fungus. It might be from an infection, but all of it is on the surface of the skin. And what I learned is that is not true. That is absolutely false. You should not even worry. Your microbiome is very easily replaced at the skin level. The issue is actually, for example, for acne, it's a toxin purge. And so educating people on what foods they're eating are actually causing it. I mean, we can all guess that if we eat fast food diet every day, our skin's going to start breaking out. But it's actually two different parts, right? One part is candida in the gut is promoted by that type of diet. And so then you get acne in the forehead, temples, cheeks, basically everything in the upper face. And then all of those foods, and unfortunately, most of the Western diet is full of food preservatives. And those food preservatives are toxins, and they come out of the skin on the jawline. So all the women with hormonal acne here, it's because they're eating hormonal toxins. And one of the craziest ones that people, once they find out it can change their life, is pea protein. I tell every listener right now, never eat pea protein, because it almost always, and yes, maybe 1% of the formulas out there don't have this, but 99% do. It has a toxin in it that is estrogenic, meaning it mimics estrogen. It causes acne right here, and it causes cysts on the ovary. So a lot of times you'll see women, they have something called PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and they get hormonal acne at the same time. And so I'm here to educate them. Cut out pea protein, and all of a sudden your skin's going to change almost overnight. But then, I have an internal wellness product called Skin Defense that binds and speeds up the removal of those toxins so that their hormones get back on track, because this will cause infertility. All kinds of hormonal issues come up. And I'm seeing so much of that today. Women who just, their cycle is not quite on schedule. Most of it has to do with the fact that we have estrogen toxins. So I have a wellness product that removes the toxins that come out here. On your neck, those toxins are pesticides. So when you eat non-organic fruit and veggies, a lot of times you'll start breaking out on your neck, front and back. And then on your chest, the acne on your front and your back are caused by chlorine in the water. And so I put in this detox that I just mentioned, a chlorine binder. And then I teach people never drink tap water, always drink spring water. Even reverse osmosis water has chlorine. Some people who are swimmers, they realize they're breaking out. That's because they're letting chlorine water go in their mouth in the swimming pool. So we figured all this out over thousands of cases. And so it's a totally different education plan. It's a totally different understanding of how it works. And it's such an empowerment to the end user who's now knows, oh, this is why it keeps coming back, because I went on this or that. And it turns out today, a ton of supplements are actually causing candida acne and other acne. So we have to be very mindful of the wellness we choose. And I know I'm in that industry, but I'm here to tell you, for example, probiotics are bad and they are causing lots of people to develop candida acne. Ever since COVID, our microbiome is sensitized to things like B12 and probiotics and magnesium. And so people are taking all those and their skin is freaking out because of it. So the amount of acne and rosacea and what's something called perioral dermatitis that's happening right now is crazy. So I built all my wellness around the idea that, hey, if candida is the problem, what's the best wellness to shrink candida? Hey, if mucus is the problem, this is one of the problems of our diet and our wellness, then what kind of, I had to invent a wellness product that melts mucus out of your body. And then I mentioned the other toxins that are involved. So it's been an unbelievable journey for me because with each new discovery and each new wellness product that, again, I don't see anywhere in the world, we're having major breakthroughs in our success with clearing almost every skin condition.
I had to ask this because you mentioned this and I read some materials or I heard you talk about this somewhere else, but can you talk a little bit about mucus?
Mucus is crazy. So the skin in the skincare world, you'll hear oftentimes if you go to an esthetician, their esthetician will tell you, oh, you have congested skin. And I think that's so fascinating because the reality is when you say you have mucus on your nose, we say we're congested. So I just thought it was interesting that, believe it or not, congested skin is caused by mucus and congested sinuses is also caused by mucus, and they usually happen at the same time. And so if you drink sour drinks like lemonade or orange juice or other sour drinks, if you eat fried food a lot, or if you eat a lot of dairy, those are the main contributors to increasing the mucus in your body. And people think, well, if I stop those, will the mucus go away? Unfortunately, if you do it long enough, the mucus gets hard. And so you need a special protocol in order to kind of scrape and melt the mucus out of your body. So we teach people, look, you can do it. Like, listen, I love dairy. I love fried food. I advise that for most people to avoid lemonade and orange juice in particular, but certain sodas as well. I do a mucus cleanse every 3 to 4 months so that I can keep eating those things. But for a lot of people, what they've developed is a lactose intolerance because the mucus has accumulated so much that any new introduction of dairy causes this reaction and they become constipated. So mucus causes constipation. Mucus is the cause of the blackheads on our face. And so people wonder, like, why, if I'm not dirty, I just had my face, extracted by the esthetician, and the next day I see more blackheads. What happened? And the answer is you probably went home and had a pizza, or you had, some ice cream, or, whatever dairy, and that caused this mucus to purge. And it is mucus ash. I like to think of it. It's not dirt. And people should, kind of intuitively, they know, how could it be dirt when I'm not dirty and I wash my face 3 times a day when I'm breaking out and I still have blackheads? Like, how is that possible? And so the answer is because it's coming from within. Blackheads are actually a purge of mucus out of the skin. And you'll notice they primarily show up in the nose, which is your esophagus, and they show up right next to the nose, which is your small intestine. And so that's why it happens. And the product we use for it is called Skin Clarifier. And usually if someone's building up a mucus for years, they'll need at least 2 Skin Clarifier and 1 Skin Aid, because the Skin Aid helps break up the hard mucus. And so that's what we do. But in reality, you create the mucus from your diet and supplements. And I'm going to come back to the supplement, the number one mucus causing supplement. You create the mucus, and then when the pollen hits it, it stimulates more allergies because it's stuck to all that mucus. Whereas if you clear out your mucus, then the pollen doesn't create the aggravation. Now, I'm just using pollen as one example. You could be allergic to other things, but it actually will clear most people's allergies substantially just by doing the mucus cleanse. The crazy but true wellness supplement that seems like half the world is taking right now that causes mucus is magnesium. Magnesium creates a wound in the gut. This gut does not like it. And so it ends up causing mucus formation every time you take it. So many people are on it, and it's creating all kinds of skin conditions.
And is there an alternative to magnesium or another way to get it so that you don't have that as an issue?
It's a great question, because one of the things I face all the time is I'll give advice and then they go to their naturopath or their MD and they're like, oh, these are the wellness things you need to take. And we're always going back and forth, and they don't know that I've learned something new. Like the things that I have learned through all these thousands of cases is not yet in mainstream medicine. So they don't know. So when I tell someone that they need to stop magnesium, they're like, well, my doctor told me I'm deficient in magnesium. It is very rare that anyone is ever deficient in magnesium. The thing that tricks people is if you can't sleep, you can take certain types of magnesium and it helps you sleep. And you're like, oh, I must be deficient in magnesium. And that's why it's helping me sleep. No, magnesium has its own impact on your cells that can override the real cause of your sleep issues. So what I would like to tell people is if you're taking magnesium because you're anxious, I have an unbelievable protocol for anxiety. The number one cause of anxiety is estrogen toxicity. Because women might even notice, like when your cycle, the variations in your cycle, you're more anxious in different parts of your cycle. The women who are menopausal, they tell me all the time, boy, I've become way more anxious since I've been in menopause. And so what I'm telling you is the imbalance of estrogen progesterone is causing anxiety in women, and they reach for magnesium because that's what the internet tells you to do. And we treat it differently. We're like, well, let's get your natural hormone production up by detoxing those nasty hormone toxins. Let's give you, I haven't even talked about frequency medicine, but let's give you frequency medicine to make your body feel more balanced without changing your hormones. I think when you're taking supplemental hormones, you never know what it could trigger. And if it's emotional anxiety, we have an amazing protocol for emotional anxiety. So I ended up creating products to address these things so they don't have to rely on magnesium anymore.
It's a whole lot to consider. I'm like, yeah, basically need that. Yeah. How many protocols can you do at a time? Because if you're detoxing one thing and you're like, oh, but I also need to improve this.
You can combine them. They all work synchronistically. And for most people, if you're on a budget, you can choose what is most important to you in the moment. But if you're wanting to get going and get to the result faster, the challenge you have with estrogen toxicity in particular, here's what everyone needs to know. We ingest and inhale approximately 1 million toxins a day. So your body is constant over time to try to deal with them. And guess what? When you're young, it does a really good job. But every year of your life, your liver gets a little less capable, your oxygen levels drop a little. All these things relate to how well your body can detox. Pesticides are mostly estrogen mimicking. They are messing with women left and right. I believe they're associated with breast cancer. And that's why breast cancer has risen like it has, because it deposits in your breast, the toxins, and they change the cells and all of that. Chlorine is estrogenic. Like I mentioned, chlorine, the food preservatives, so many of them are estrogenic. My point is, if your parents didn't bring you up in an environment where they had you just eating super clean, most women in their 20s and 30s have a significant amount of estrogen toxicity already. If your menstrual cycle's off, you have some. If you have a bunch of cellulite, you have some. If you have that stubborn fat that doesn't seem to be related to diet, that doesn't go away when you starve yourself, you probably have estrogen toxicity, because these toxins are also called obesogens, because they literally go into the fat cell and make the fat cell bigger, causing you to look fatter. And this is why in farming communities, there's a much bigger obesity epidemic, because all of these people are swollen from all the poisons their body was trying to deal with. And it takes some women 2 years to detox what took them 30 years to build up in their body. So some people are going to take longer than others. And the more severe your menstrual issues are, the longer it's going to take to detox.
I was going to ask you about your skincare routine, but now I also want to ask you about your wellness stack. And, you can just take me through the day as much as you feel comfortable sharing. You might not be on a detox right now, but you might be on a maintenance protocol. So I'm not sure, whatever you want to share. I'm really curious, though.
Here's what I tell people, and my podcast is called #AskDrBen, and I go through the reasons why I take all the things I'm about to take. Here's what I will say topically. First of all, I'm 58 years old. My skin is aging really well, and I've reversed a lot of aging. Like when I was 35, I had a lot of sun damage that I had to overcome. But the thing that showed up in my 40s was that volume loss problem. So my routine involved taking my recovery, that oil, to replump this, in particular, this and this. If you have forehead lines, you have lost your fat pads. That's one of the big ones. There's a huge fat pad that goes between your brows. So if you have deep lines here, you have lost a significant part of your fat pads. If you have deeper lines here, you have lost a significant part of your fat pads. And people can look and see, they'll see like a, the sort of, if you imagine like a rolling hill, you'll all of a sudden see as you get to this part of your eye, a lot of people, it'll dip down. And that is the fat pad disappearing. And so we want to replump that up. So I take that recovery oil every day to keep my microbiome healthy and to keep my fat pads maintained. I take the Detox, the skin defense every day, because as I mentioned, listen, I go out to a lot of restaurants. I can't find organic very often. Toxins are in like almost every food we like, especially the cheap foods we like. And so I detox every day. And that includes activated charcoal is in there, something called DIM, which is a really good binder for estrogen poisons. And so different things like that are in this product. So I take that. I take my alternative to collagen supplement. I take something called Regenerate, which uses the amino acids that you would get from those supplements. But I use a liver extract in there. And I use this ingredient called alpha ketoglutarate. This supplement's amazing for rebuilding skin collagen, healing the liver and other organs. So I take that every day because my liver is constantly being hit every day by all those toxins in our food. And I take a supplement we have called Elevate that boosts your ATP in your body, which is amazing for your health. A lot of people take NAD right now, is better than NAD in the sense that we've got clinical trials showing that it accelerates fat burning by 1.5 pounds a month, that the energy they feel and how they feel in their brain, like you feel it. So many of these supplements we're told to take, you don't feel anything. You're like, oh, cross my fingers. I hope that this is actually working like they said, but I don't really feel a difference. Well, we try to make supplements where you actually can feel that difference or see that difference. So anyway, that's pretty much what I take on the internal side. Topically, I'll be sort of short because, I believe that there are 4 different strategies for aging. We have the surface where you get the fine lines and you get the enlarged pores and you get the age spots. That needs its own targeted approach. So I have a product called Rescue that focuses on the epidermis. And so I apply that to my skin every day, twice a day. It's the best anti-inflammatory you'll ever try as well, by the way. If people are red for acne, it's amazing as a detox. So that one I take every day. I take my growth factor serum. So this is from stem cells and fibroblasts because as we get older, every year after age 25, our growth factor population goes down along with our collagen production. And so I take a growth factor serum that repopulates the activity of the growth factors. It has the most exosomes of any product in the world today. We actually measured how many exosomes are in there, and it has over 600 different growth factors in it. So it's a very balanced, complete presentation. Again, the most growth factors I've ever seen in any product in the world today. And that's called Stem Factor. And then I take my vitamin C serum, which is called Catalyst. It's really one of these unique things where it's not your typical C serum because it's a darker color, a bit sticky. People have to figure out how to work with it, but it's so worth it. If you look at our before and after pictures, you'll see at osmosisbeauty.com, you'll see horrible acne scarring on the face, almost completely reversed by this product. It's the only product in the world that reverses acne. And that's sort of a testament to how much change it causes in the skin. So it's really good at wound healing. I don't have time to go into exactly why it's so different, but it's a very unique way to do vitamin C. And yes, it's going to be a little different in the bottle. And you're going to see it be like, wait, it's a brownish color. Doesn't that mean that it's no longer good? And the answer is just for yourself. Like we did clinical trials. It tightened the eyelid by 15% in 8 weeks. It started to reverse actinic keratoses, which are precancerous lesions. It makes broken capillaries disappear. All of this we proved in our clinical trial with that product. So anyway, that's my vitamin C serum. And then sort of the mainstay for collagen. A lot of people want to know, how do I build more collagen in my face? There's only one vitamin A that works for collagen, and it's called retinaldehyde. And the problem with retinaldehyde is, like most skincare ingredients, it doesn't penetrate very well. So we liposome deliver retinaldehyde to the deeper skin to activate collagen in a powerful way. It's proven to be as strong as retinoic acid without being irritating like retinoic acid in clinical trials. So it's a very proven ingredient. and we add in 8 other collagen stimulators, all liposome delivered, so that you get the maximum level of collagen activation while your barrier is still intact. Because we believe in keeping your barrier intact, because that's how you keep hydration. So, one of the big things that I want people to leave with is you should rarely exfoliate your skin. Exfoliating your skin actually causes your skin to dry out. It causes it to be sun sensitized. And if you keep doing it and you do it repetitively, it'll actually cause your skin to become sensitive and oily. Exfoliating makes your skin become more oily, believe it or not. A lot of people do it to treat that. So we don't believe in exfoliating. We believe in stimulating from the inside out. So that's my routine. I do it every day, twice a day. When it comes to the topicals, the internals, I do once a day. And I guess the one thing I haven't mentioned, because it's such a different and broad subject, is my frequency medicine products. And I'm the first to tell you, as an MD, it took me a year of testing before I could even consider this to be valid, because it's not something we learned about in medical school. But frequency medicine is the real deal. And we're able to treat so many things with I have like 15 different frequency medicine products that I offer. I take a few of those and I love them. I'll stop there because I know I'm just blabbering on.
There's so many questions that I have. There's so many different tangents that we could go off of, because I know, like you were talking about the vitamin C, your product is able to take care of a lot of things, reverse a lot of acne scarring, but then also you were talking about capillaries as well. And I know that's something that people also look to laser treatment for. And I know you have strong opinions about lasers.
Well, I mean, the one thing I'll say that people need to understand is the actual number one cause of aging is loss of circulation in your skin. And it starts at 25. So everything goes down with it. So you lose your blood flow by about 1% every year starting at 25. So by the time you're 50, you have 25% less of the nutrients and the immune cells and the growth factors delivering to your skin. Well, you can imagine in that scenario that your skin would make 25% less collagen. It would turn over 25% less, in a month. So instead of turning over every 30 days, it turns over every 40 days, or 37 days by that math. You need to look at all the blood vessels in your face as precious. So when I hear about people going in and getting IPL facials and doing lasers for their rosacea where they're collapsing blood vessels all over the place, I get really concerned, because I know the body will replace some of them because it's smart and knows, hey, I've got it. You didn't really want to do that. Let me correct your problem. It doesn't replace all of them. It might only replace 90% of them. So every time you go in, you're almost speeding the aging process by many years by collapsing those blood vessels. So when I say Catalyst heals a blood vessel, so the blood vessels that you see on your surface skin, your skin did by divine design. Once again, skin is so intelligent. So it says, hey, there's a wound here that needs extra blood, extra circulation, extra nutrients. And that's why your body builds out this, what we call a telangiectasia in medicine. The colloquial term is a broken capillary. So that actually is forming because there's a wound there. So when I say our vitamin C makes that disappear, it's because it accelerates the wound healing. So the skin no longer needs the capillary. There's no clotting agents in it. Whereas if you take a laser and you start zapping your whole face, I am telling you that is an aging event, and you won't probably know that your skin got older faster 20 years later, but it did.
That is a take that I was not expecting. And it was so interesting to hear you break it down like that, because you hear that's sort of like a very simple, straightforward in-office treatment that is just not a big deal. And most people don't even think about it.
That one seems more benign because most people don't peel from it. Let me just divert for 1 second to all the other laser treatments, because let me tell you, the evidence is in. Heat damage causes DNA damage, and DNA damage is almost impossible to recover from. So every time you're using those high heat ultrasounds, the RF, the needling that has all the different procedures where they're running radio frequency or ultrasound into your skin to literally cook it, they're literally cooking your skin. Now think about that. Like, in what world did we all as physicians get convinced by these laser companies? By the way, I got suckered. I bought a bunch of lasers when I had laser clags too. But then I realized, I'm like, wait a minute. How does cooking the skin make it healthier? And let me tell you the trick. When you cook the skin and then you measure collagen production in the next week afterwards, boy, it goes up a lot, right? Because your skin's going, boy, I have a lot to repair. They just damaged all this collagen in the face. Everybody ramp up to your maximum potential, and they do a punch biopsy and like, see, look at all the collagen that's being generated by cooking your skin. Here's the problem, everyone. That collagen is not going to add to your former levels of collagen. It's simply being used to go replace all the burnt collagen that just happened. So there is no net gain. And where it gets super confusing is because your skin got tight, because it's swollen from the burn, you think, oh, it's tighter. Yes, it is rejuvenating. This is amazing. No. As you're going to see after a month, the tightening comes down as the wound heals, and you're left oftentimes worse off, although they may just say they're back to the same as they were. And then they go back and get another treatment and make the same mistake again. And unfortunately, and where the areas where Osmosis is a specialist, is we are seeing a ton of people that have horrific, permanent, like orange peel dimpling from these procedures because they cooked the fat. Once those machines start cooking your fat, you're in big trouble because you'll get this texture problems and it's awful. I feel so bad for these people.
Yeah, that is, again, very eye-opening to the impact of lasers. I know they're just becoming more and more popular, and there are numerous devices that you can use at home that have an RF or basically a heat component that are also becoming more popular now. So, it's really important, I think, to talk about that as well.
I'll just say, yeah, the ones that are for home use, if they create any change at all in your skin, then they're doing it by traumatizing and you should not use them. The one that is not as bad as an infrared or an LED light used in moderation, again, people that are getting into these heat beds and spending too much time in them, they're starting to see pigment. They're starting to get spots, because their skin is being cooked. And so there's a limit to the amount of heat you want to give your skin at any one time before damage starts to happen. Most of the time, these home devices aren't very significant, but if they actually produce change in your skin visible, like your wrinkles look a little bit better, that means they're doing damage. And what's happening is they're swelling, causing your wrinkle to look better. A word of caution to everybody out there. And I know you'll say, well, listen, I trust my dermatologist. I've gone to him for years. Why would he be wrong? There's what's called group think problem in medicine and in dermatology, where everyone is scared to step outside of what everyone else is doing. And they get so caught up in the science of, hey, I saw the collagen went up by 30%. And even though they have client after client who says, I've got post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation from this, or the wound never healed, or I've got the dimpling, they still persist. And they're like, well, I spent $250,000 on this machine. I got to make my money back. Medicine is corrupted. I just have to say it. And your dermatologist may even be well-meaning. And if they don't know that there's no actual age reversal happening from the machine, then it is on them. But I would guess that if you ask most dermatologists, is this going to cause a permanent improvement in my skin? They're going to say no. And that's your first thing. Like, don't spend $1,000 cooking your skin if there's not going to be any permanent improvement from it. And so hopefully people listen to me today. I have no skin in the game, right? I'm hating on lasers hurts my business because I sell to doctors, but I have to tell my truth. Botox, fillers, lasers, you're hearing it from me, especially all these 20 somethings who are like, oh, I'm getting it for preventative. No, you're actually progressing your aging. And so please don't do it.
We were talking about at-home devices, and I know you were mentioning a little bit about LED light, the really trending, eye masks, face masks. What about, are there benefits to that at the at-home level, the consumer level, with no heat, but just the light treatment, light therapy?
So I want to distinguish between heat, because if I put a hot pad in my skin, I'm not aging my skin, right? So I want to distinguish between heat and cooking. Cooking happens, lasers cook. Ultrasound, high frequency ultrasound cooks, radio frequency cooks. Red light overheats if you leave it on too long. But, most of the protocols for these home devices, I think they tell you a number that's probably correct. And so what I would say is this. I used to believe, and the clinical trials would suggest, that the wavelength of light that you use, like 694 nanometers, is a wavelength of light that LED people have found in a NASA study generated collagen. Well, remember how I said circulation is the skin's problem? When you put that wavelength of light into your skin, it actually dilates your blood vessels. And when you dilate your blood vessels, you feed collagen manufacturing. So the benefit is in the collagen manufacturing. And so, yes, there's some benefit to that food supply, but I do not believe the story that that wavelength somehow tickles the collagen making cells and boom, now all of a sudden they're producing more collagen. It has more to do with circulation.
I wanted to ask, looking ahead, what is the most exciting thing to you about the future of skin, health, and beauty and wellness?
Well, I mean, throw all those categories in, and I'll tell you, as with my MD hat on, that we have an antiviral product that and it turns out that most autoimmune diseases are caused by viruses. Most of the people who are having reactions to vaccines, it's caused by viruses. So we have an antiviral called immune defense. And to me, this is going to change the game for everybody because, autoimmune diseases can be a disaster, whether it's Hashimoto's or POTS or, vasculitis and all these different things that are happening right now and growing in severity. So we're super excited about that. If someone has brain fog, they have Epstein-Barr virus most of the time. We treat that. So we're treating very serious health conditions along with treating, for example, endometriosis is caused by a virus. Super easy to treat that. I could go on with the whole list, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, all these things are not autoimmune conditions that cannot be treated. So that's probably the thing I'm most excited about because it's transformative for any individual to be over that condition. I live for that moment every day. And then, what is the future skincare? I hope it's a future where the truth is told, and where people realize that buying some seaweed ingredient your skin doesn't recognize probably isn't going to make a huge difference in your skin. And you've got to realize that your skin works off of very specific ingredients every day. Retinaldehyde is actually the ingredient your skin uses to make collagen. The vitamin C, absolutely needed to be able to build the building blocks of collagen. And so coming up with strategies to get these ingredients into the skin and create permanent change is the way this industry should be going. I think a lot of people are wasting a lot of money. A lot of people are spending a lot of money on supplements that are actually harming them. I gave a pretty significant list today, just as a reminder: magnesium, probiotics, collagen, B12 orally. All these things are causing harm to a lot of people's microbiome and their skin. I just want the world to learn what I've learned. We're still growing and building. We're a substantial company now, but I want the textbooks to change, the medical textbooks to change. I have a much bigger mission for sure. And I hope today was helpful for a lot of people just to get them back on track on how to focus on what's most important, because a lot of people are struggling financially. So you don't want to spend money on a product that is temporarily plumping your skin or a wellness. These things aren't that potent. They're not going to treat a problem that you have, and rather, focus their dollars on things where they get a visible or a palpable result.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ben. Can you tell everyone where they can find you, listen into your podcast, and all the ways they can connect with you?
Well, thank you, LeAura. Yeah, it's hashtag Ask Dr. Ben is my podcast. Now, I haven't done one in a little while, but I have a huge number of them that they can go through, and I'm about to start back up again. I finally convinced myself to start up again. I used to do an hour vlog on Instagram every week. And so on our website, we have a bunch of those mind dumps, if you will. Osmosisbeauty.com is our website. If you're a professional, we have a whole education program called Holistic Skin Specialists you can read about on our website. Oh, there's another cool thing. I have an AI chatbot called Dr. Ben AI that answers so many questions. So go to the chatbot. It's on the front page of my website. Type in your concern and watch and see the protocols that come out of that. Really appreciate you giving me an opportunity to talk to you today. And, I worked up a sweat doing it.
Thank you so much for sharing all of your impassioned knowledge. And I really appreciate your time today. And I'm going to share all of the details in the show notes and would love to have you come back and share some more.
Awesome. I'd love to come back. Thanks for having me again.
Thanks, Dr. Ben.